Hi, and welcome back to Programming for Fun with Scratch. This is episode 10, where we're going to look at text translation using the Translate extension for Scratch. My name is Deeth. I am a digital services technician with the Richmond Public Library, and I'm so glad you could be here with us. All right, so we're going to be working pretty much directly in Scratch today, so I'm going to head over there. And you can see this is the project we worked on in the last episode, and we created, I think around episode 3 or so. So it is a branching conversation. So it's how to you tell a story or make a story game with where when you choose different branches along the way, you get different endings. And it doesn't tell a full story. It's just an example to show a couple of branches. And that makes it easier for us to work with as we're kind of evolving and modifying the tool set. And then you could always take this and make your own games and make a full, a longer game with more branches and more endings, just like one of the Choose Your Own Adventure books you can get here at the library. All right, so what we're going to do first is we're going to include the translation extension. So go down to the extensions in the lower left-hand corner here and click on that. And it pulls up all of these extensions. Many of them are for interfacing with different kinds of hardware, the Makey and the Microbit, and various Lego tools, and Go Direct. I'm not sure what that is, and a bunch of add new blocks to Scratch just to do new things within your computer. So playing instruments we've looked at before. The pen is one that we've looked at before, and we're going to be using in our next episode a lot. And then video sensing we will get to in a future project, and we use text-to-speech in the last episode. We'll continue to use it in this one. And then translate. So translate is what we want for today. So go ahead and click that. And it just gives us 2 new blocks. And really, one of them is a reporter block that just says what language we are translating from. And the other is what language we want to translate to and what text. And the from block, if I look at that, it says English. And I can click on it and it puts up English here. And so how would we change that? There's no block to let you change what language you're translating from. But you can translate what language you use Scratch in. So if I change that to German or Deutsch, all my blocks are now translated to German. And if I go here and look at this, Deutsch is the language that I'm translating from. I don't actually speak German, so I'm going to switch it back to English. I think that might be easier for all of us. Unless you are watching this and you speak German better than English, which, fair. All right, so we've got the language we translate from, and the language we translate to, and some text to translate. So we need to there are lots of languages we can translate to. Amharic, Arabic, Azerbaijani, Basque, goes and all the way up to Welsh and Zulu. What we need to do is find languages that match with languages, because we still are going to use the text-to-speech. We need to also have it be supported there. That also supports a lot of languages. And there's lots of crossover, so we can do Arabic, Chinese, Danish, Dutch, French, German. Hindi was not on the translate list, although Hebrew was, and it's not on the text-to-speech list. So there are some gaps. Icelandic is on both. Italian, Japanese, Korean, Norwegian, Polish, Portuguese, Romanian, Russian, Spanish, Swedish, Turkish, and Welsh are all on both lists. So we have a lot of choices. we can we could make a tool to choose what language, and use that to ensure that it is a language. Maybe we could use an array to list all the languages that are possible. I don't think, and I would like to be wrong about this, but I don't think that Scratch gives us a way to pick one item from an array. Let's try it. Let's say language. And we'll do this for all sprites so they all can see what language is chosen. And let's add a couple of things. So Arabic and Chinese. We have to match up. It's going to the voice can do Mandarin Chinese, the voice to text to speech, and the text translation can do simplified or traditional Chinese. So that's something we would have to do some experimenting with to see what works out best, and isn't a one word that matches in both lists. So I'm going to skip that for now, just because of for the sake of time and complexity. But it is something that is possible and supported. I'm going to just jump down now. Let's say French, because we're in Canada, so we should support French. And Japanese. And one more. I'm going to pick Welsh. Okay, so that's our list. Now, we want to be able to choose one of these. Let's see what blocks having this list gives us. Show list, hide list, replace. We can pick an item. We can see if something is in the list. That might be useful. So if we let them type in a word, we can see if that word is in the list. Maybe that's enough for now. That's at least kind of useful. Let's hide that. So now we have a list of languages we support, and we'll make another variable for what language we want to be using, and that will be language. Okay. And now when we start up, one of these blocks has to ask what language we want, and it doesn't really matter. It's going to be kind of universal for all of them. So let's have the backdrop do that. So on start, we're going to ask. Where's ask? I think that's under looks, maybe, or maybe under controls. Events. Oh, come on, there's got to be a way. Oh, sensor. Okay. So we're gonna say what language should, oops, let's just say what language should we use? All right, and then the answer will be the language. So what we'll do is we will set our variable, set language, to the answer. And now we want to make sure that that language is one of our supported languages. So we can tell if the language is in that list. So is so does it contain? So does languages? I've got a language. Can we rename this? Yes. Languages. I don't want two things named language. That's just confusing. So languages. All right. So we need a loop. So repeat until. Languages contains language. So, and what that's saying is, so we're going to set language to the answer. So until somebody types in a language that we actually support, and there's lots we can do here. We can give them a list of supported languages, either in a dialogue, in a like a say block or something, or we can, maybe make a graphic that we show off to the side as a sidebar. That would be a lot more helpful than just saying pick a language and we'll see if it supports it. But this at least makes sure that we do pick one of the ones we supported. And since we know which ones we support, maybe we'll even show it. Let's see. Let's just say supported languages. Let's make it really clear. Okay. And we can show it here. Do we have any rules about how we show it? No. With regular variables, you can change how they look. So, but I think with arrays, we get less flexibility. Let's try this. So supported languages, and until it contains language, we keep asking, but we want to show that that variable, that array, and then hide it again. So let's show it and hide it, and I think we're all good. So that's a little more friendly. So now, what language should we use?
Do you like the view?
I thought we had Welsh here. It does let them change it as they go, so that's maybe not the best thing. All right. So, and we already go ahead and start saying, does Marianne like the view? So we're gonna have to figure out a way to not do that until we get a language. So we should basically pause everything until we get through this this question. So we'll figure that out. All right, what language should we use? Let's go with French for now. All right, so now we should have a language, and it should be French. So let's just double check here. Language is French. We'll start playing the music. Okay. What else? So if we start over again.
Hey, later. Do you like the view?
Why did we not?
Hey, later. Do you like the view?
Oh, we still have French chosen. So let's reset that. All right. So let's go. So what happened here is because we don't do anything with it, we actually still, language is still French, I think. Yeah. So let's set it to an empty string, just to make sure we get that dialogue. Okay. What language should we use?
Do you like the view?
French. Alright, and now I can see that it is French, and we're going to have to do something about all of these buttons at some point. This dialogue and these. So we will get there. All right. What language? We've got a language now. So now when we have dialogue, oops. Okay. It all goes through this block that we made, say dialogue. And so that's convenient because right now we are using that for text-to-speech, and we can also use it for our language translation. How about that? So we've got some dialogue coming through that's in this block, and we want to translate it. And I think we want to actually set a variable with that translated text. So let's make a variable. It's for this sprite only. Translated dialogue. And we will set the translated dialogue. Alright, so then we go in here and we're going to translate dialogue to, and for the to now we need our language variable. Okay. So now it should, language is French, dialogue is what's coming in, and the translated dialogue should be set here. And then we need to use that translated dialogue. So the translated dialogue will be used here. So join. So we'll replace dialogue with translated dialogue. We'll replace it also here in the speak. Now we set the voice on speech. What we didn't set before, because it was already English, we didn't set that. So let's set that now. This is the language we're translating from. This is the language we're translating to, so that could be a little confusing. We might want to rename that variable as well. Set language to our language variable. And I think, hopefully, the voices are the same in each language. I know in some text-to-speech systems they have different voices for different languages, but I think because it's such a small set of voices that they just use them for all the languages. That might be why it's a small set of voices. So this will probably start off in English because there's some dialogue we're not preventing yet until, and then it should switch to French once we have set that. Let's try it and see.
Hey, lady, do you like the view?
French. So does she like the view? Yes.
Oui, vous pouvez voir toute la ville d'ici.
There we
Je
go.
suis Marianne. Quel est votre nom?
Awesome. All right, so we haven't translated the buttons yet, but let's see what Sam says.
My name is Samuel, but you can call me Sam. Have you seen my dog?
Okay,
In here on this way.
that's interesting. So it sounds like he's got an accent, but we didn't translate his text. So what's happened here is we've set the language to French, but over on Sam's block, we haven't yet set the, we haven't done the translation yet. What that means is, because setting the language is actually something we only have to do once, we could do that over here. When we get the language, we will now set the language to no, maybe not. Oh, the text-to-speech language. Set voice, set language, that. Okay, set language to answer. I think that should work. So we need to stop Sam from talking until...
Hey, lady, do you like the view?
Oui, vous pouvez voir toute la ville d'ici. Je suis Marianne. Quel est votre nom?
My name is Samuel.
Oh, right, we haven't translated.
Have you seen my dog?
I
I'm
can't-
seen here on this way.
I kind of like the speaking English with a French accent thing here. But, okay, so what did we do for Marianne? We translated the dialogue. We gave her a variable for that. And then we set it. And so we just need to do the same thing here. And actually, the only thing that's different between... No, there's a couple things different. Okay. So let's go ahead and make a variable for Sam. It is for this sprite only. Translated dialogue. And we want to set that. Let's translate it. Translate the dialogue to language. Just scroll a little bit here. Okay. And now we just need to use that translated dialogue here. And here. We'll still let him use the giant voice. Alright.
Hey, lady, do
So
you
now-
like the view?
So now he's still speaking in English because, again, that runs before we actually choose the language.
Oui, vous pouvez voir toute la ville d'ici.
Now Marianne's
Je
in
suis
French.
Marianne. Quel est votre nom?
Je m'appelle Samuel.
Yes.
Mais vous pouvez m'appeler Sam.
Now they're both speaking French.
Avez-vous vu mon chien?
And
Je
the
pense
subtitles
qu'il a
are French.
couru de cette façon.
So that's great. So already we've made pretty good progress. We've got almost all of the voices. We need to stop Sam from speaking until we've chosen a language. And we need to make sure that Marianne, make sure the buttons are correct and so the rest of the interface. And we've got a couple ways of approaching that. But let's make sure Sam doesn't start talking too soon. So we're on Sam. So here we have when the green flag is clicked, and we hear the bark and play sound bark a couple times, and then bark again, and then we say. So let's actually not do any of that. And what we're going to do is wait for an event. So we can call it language chosen. We can just call it start. And once the language is chosen, we can send a start event. Let's say language chosen. I like to be really clear about things so we understand. So we've initialized a language, and we're ready to actually begin talking. So when I receive, and that's what. And this is just like we're doing with the rest of the dialogue. We're waiting until we receive an event or message saying that it's time. So this is a new event. And all of our messages, we don't have to translate those. Those are only used internally by our code, so it needs to be in a language we read. Just like all of the the blocks and stuff need to be in a language we read, but we don't have to worry about that for our users because they're not going to see that. So the message names can stay in English. We don't have to translate those as long as the message itself is translated, or the anything we show the user. So this message name, what do we want to call it? Language selected. Okay, so now he's not going to start talking until there's a language selected, and everything else is driven from that. So until nothing else is going to happen until Sam broadcasts, do you like the view? So because we're doing that event-driven, that message-driven system for running the game, all we have to do is delay this one place and everything else should be okay. So I'm going to go back here now. We need to send a message. Broadcast. We don't need to wait. Doesn't really matter. Yeah, so we're going to start playing the music after that, but that's okay. So language selected. Yeah, so we've hidden the languages, we broadcast language selected, and the game begins. So let's try that now. What language should we use? See, there's no music, there's no dog barking, Sam's not talking. That's all good. Let's try Welsh. Does Marion like the view? Sure.
Gallwch weld y dref gyfan o'r fan hon. Marian ydw I, beth ydy dy enw di?
I love it. It's working. All right. So now we need to do the buttons. So Scratch has very limited ways of displaying text on the screen. And so let's look at what we've got. In addition to graphic buttons, so we can do whatever we want, but then we would have to make a set of buttons for every... basically, we would go into the buttons and create costumes for every language. So we would have an English, Welsh, Japanese. Every language would have to have its own button, and we'd have to do some translation to get the text for that and put it on there, which is doable. Like, we can do that, especially since, right now we're only supporting, 4 languages? So it's not that many buttons. Once we start supporting more and more languages, it's going to be harder to create a graphic for every one of them. So it'd be nice if we could automate that. I'm not 100% sure we can. Let's take a look. Under looks, we have a couple of things for displaying text. We can say hello. So that gives us a little speech bubble, and we can translate the text in that. Let's see, how do I get rid of that? Okay. There we go. If you say emptiness, then it hides the speech bubble. Not 100% intuitive. This is the same, but with a speech bubble or a thought bubble. So that's one way to display text. Not necessarily the best. We could do it the way we're doing with the subtitles. So we could create a variable, make a variable of button, for instance, and then we can, in our button, we can show it like that. We can make it say yeah, this isn't gonna be great. We can, right, here's where we can set it. So we can say yes, and we can translate that. But we don't have any, like, it already does stuff when we click on it, right? It doesn't we can't do an event like when button clicked or anything. So that's a problem. we could combine these, so we could have our button with the text on this background, and if we click the button, that works. But if we click there, it doesn't. That's going to be a problem. So I don't think that's going to work. And what else can we do? We can ask yes or no. They would have to type yes or no. And we could do that the same as we do over here, except that we would want to translate it. So are we asking them to type in yes or no in their own language? So we would have to detect that. So that gets a little more complicated as well. We would have to say, is it the translation of yes or no? And we would have to hope that Google translates it, because that's what we're using for the translation underneath these blocks, the same way as the person does. That they, whatever they type as no in their language actually matches what Google thinks is no in their language, which probably would work for yes or no in most cases, but maybe not for more complicated things. And so here's some stuff we can do with strings, but it's just about changing them as variables and not actually displaying a string. Yeah. It's really something missing from scratch, the ability to display text and customize buttons. So I think we are stuck with translating the buttons ourselves. So what are our supported languages here? We've got supported languages, so we need to make buttons in Arabic, French, Japanese, and Welsh. So we've already got English. Let's just name them. English. And duplicate that. And we need Arabic. Nice thing is, I think we actually, we actually can edit the text of the button because it is a vector, not a bitmap. We haven't done convert to bitmap. Please don't. That will make this part a lot harder because a bitmap is just a picture and it's all pixels. But a vector actually stores the shapes of everything and the fact that this is text so we can edit it as text. So here we want to actually, I'm just going to make a little utility. Just to show, I'll just use my variable since we've already got that. It comes with by default. And so I want to translate to the language, and my variable set. So we're working on yes, and we want to translate it to Arabic. Alright, so now I can copy that, I think. Well, how am I going to copy and paste that? This is a puzzle. Because I may have to use a language besides Arabic just because I can't actually type that. Oh, not language. With this button, it's hidden. Yeah, I can't select that to type it. Okay, so I don't think we can do that internally to Scratch. That's okay. We don't have to. We can actually go use Google Translate ourselves. I still need to get rid of that. Now, dialogue. Say. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to open up another browser page. And Google Translate. So I want yes from English to Arabic. And this is actually what it's using, what the blocks themselves are using. So I'm going to copy that. And go back here. And edit the costume. So this is Arabic. What did I just do? Okay. Gonna be in text mode. Okay, that broke it somehow. I think I'm not pasting the right thing. So I selected it, copy. I'm on a Mac, so I may have just done Control C instead of Command C. That happens sometimes because I switch back and forth a lot. And do yes. And there we go. Now, what I'm concerned about is because Arabic is left to right, or right to left, I believe. And so, does it look like that? Yeah, I think it does. All right, so let's center it, and maybe make the font a little bigger. I guess we would just resize. Recenter it. Okay, so there's yes in Arabic, to the best of my knowledge, and so we need to do three more. All right, so this one is French. Japanese. And Welsh. French is pretty easy. I can just type oui. Text tool. I don't know a lot of French, but I know how to say yes. Make sure that's centered. And Japanese is hi, but I don't have the keyboard to type that in the right characters. So let's go back to Google Translate and translate into Japanese. Hi. And make sure that's centered. Where's the... There it is. It's the centering, the center of the text is light blue, and we're dragging it on a darker blue, so it's a little hard to see. There we go. So that's Japanese, and now Welsh. Again, we'll go over to Google Translate. I don't actually know any Welsh. Cool. Text tool. Nope. Try again. Copy the right thing. There we go. Set to that. And then we can do no. Alright. So that's boom, boom, boom. So no. Let's duplicate that. So this one's English. Okay, so now we need to actually do the translation. So let's do Arabic first. So, no. Oh, we've already got Welsh. Let's get that. Close already. French, I think it's just no. Or non, maybe? What is... EFGH. French. Non. So, come on. Japanese. Oh, it's been a long time since I studied Japanese. I think you would say, I don't think you would normally just answer no, but maybe. Yeah, okay. Barely fits on our button. We can make it smaller if we need to, but I think that's okay. Now Arabic. And whoops. Arabic. Ah. Cool. To the point. Alright. There we go. Cool. So we've got buttons. We need to choose which button. And now conveniently we have named the costumes of our buttons. So we need to choose a costume. So we have an event, or yeah. So when language is selected, where is it? Language selected. Switch costume to language. We don't need that anymore. Okay, when language is selected, switch costume to language. So that should give us the right button, and we just need that also on the yes. So that's exactly the same logic. All right, now we just have this dialogue, and what's interesting about this is we don't click on it. It shows the yes and no buttons without clicking on it. So we could actually use a variable instead. Just like we do with subtitles. And I think that might be the best way to go, because we're translating more text, and doing that as a button. Having that block of text as a button in the first place was not maybe the greatest, and we may, as we extend our story, we're probably going to have a lot more blocks like that, so it'd be nice to have them auto-translate. Alright, so hide, show. Let's see, how can we do that? If we replace this whole thing with a variable. What's the name of it? Branching question. So let's say we have a branching question. As a variable. Do all sprites need it? I don't think so. Let's see. So we have a couple of different places we use this. So I think what we're going to end up here is that there's not going to be an actual costume that we use for this sprite, that it's just a hidden thing that shows text using the variable. So instead of hide, we're going to want to show the variable. Hide the variable. And instead of show, we'll do this, and here we will set we have two different. We could have an array of questions. Or we can have the questions and variables. I don't want to have it typed out like this every time. For now, we only have a couple. So let's make those variables. We can always move them into an array later. This is for this sprite only. Question 1. Or should we just say, does everyone like the view? Let's say question 1. So we're going to have to set these. And I am thinking this probably should be in an array, but Sam trust Marion, and we need a question 2. Question 2. Does Marion like the view? Okay. When I receive so we've got 2 questions. We're going to translate them, and then we're going to use them. So instead of switch costume, we're going to set the text and show the variable. So we can translate them once. Branching question is okay. Yeah, we want to have the question and have the question translated. Yeah, this should be an array, but we'll get there. All right, we're going to be matching against the string, so we want to have it not translated, because that would make it more complicated. So we'll just translate when we display it. Okay, I'm just trying to think through when we should translate this. So we want to set a variable, which is branching question. Set branching question to the translation of so what's your name? Does Sam trust Marion, right? What's your name? Does Sam trust Marion? And when you're creating a game with lots of branches, you're going to have notes, and you're going to have probably graphs and stuff to keep track of what all of these are. Does Sam trust Marion is question 1. Translate question 1 to language, and we set that to the branching question, and then we show it. And now here, does Marion like the view? We do the same thing, except it's question 2. Let's just put question 1 first here, just to make a little more sense. All right, now we're going to do something similar here. If so, for instead of costume name, we have branching question. Okay.
Mijn naam, mijn David.
What? Why is it doing that? Okay. Branching question. And then here, instead of typing that text, we'll actually have so does Sam trust Marion is question 1. Does Marion like the view is question 2. And here, question 1, question 2. All right. So now we can add more and more questions, and we would just have repeating these blocks, we just have to create some more variables here, and we can have a long list, and we might be able to get away with we might be able to shorten this by using arrays at some point, but I think this is okay for now. So we're setting the branching question to the translation and displaying it. And where does that go? Branching question. Okay, so we want it to be here. Why does not that should not be 0? Okay. Well, let's try it and see. Supported languages. Why is that shown? Oh, right. It's shown because we want them to try Japanese.
ねえ、レディ。あなたは景色が好きですか?
Okay, so now that's our question. We're going to say yes. Hi. What happened? So we said yes. When I receive yes, hide. Branch. And then if the branching question is this. Oh, but the branching question isn't. It's the translation. Right. So we need to keep we need one more variable. Okay, so we have a branching question and a translated question. Okay, so we need to set the branching question to question 1 in this case, and set the branching the translated question to either to the branching question. And actually, we're going to reuse a lot of this code. When I receive this message, yeah, let's make another block. Just to do this part. So we don't need to keep repeating that. We can actually add an input here for the question. Yeah. So what I'm doing here, I just made a block that does what each of these blocks were doing, but you don't have to repeat all of the code for them. So now when I receive what's your name, I know the answer. I know that I need to ask question 1 to Sam Trust Mary, and maybe I could actually I could almost get rid of that, but I need to be able to compare the questions over here. Yeah, so I can't quite get rid of that. But I can now just use those to show the question. That will then set the branching question, so I can compare to see they're equal once we get an answer. So we need to see what question is being answered to know where to jump to next, what message to broadcast. And we need to translate it and then show that translated variable. And I wonder if I can center that better. All right, let's try this now. Japanese.
ねえ、レディ、あなたは景色が好きですか？
Does Marion like what? It didn't translate it. Hi.
はい、ここから街全体を見ることができます。
I know why.
私はマリアン。
Because we're showing the branching branching question, and we want the translated question. And over here, we want to hide the translated question. And we'll just go ahead and in variables hide the branching question. Okay, let's try that. Japanese.
ねえ、レディ、あなたは景色が好きですか？
はい、ここから街全体を見ることができます。私はマリアンです。あなたの名前は何ですか？
Yes, does Sam trust Marianne? Yes. Hi.
私の名前はサミュエルですが、あなたは私をサムと呼ぶことができます。私の犬を見たことがありますか？彼はこのように走ったと思います。
Okay, let's try a different path than we've been doing. So again, I'm going to just keep it in Japanese for now.
ねえ、レディ、あなたは景色が好きですか？
She's not crazy about the
え
view
え、
because
大
she's
丈夫だと
cold.
思います。
Oh, look at
こ
that.
の辺りでセーターをどこで買えるか知っていますか？
Why is the question staying
私
there?
のおばあちゃんは街で
Show
最高のセ
question.
ーターを作っています。フォローしてください。
We need to
ただい
hide.
ま。私は
Oh.
友達を育てました。
Right. So here we need to hide not that, but this. Come on. There we go. So instead of hiding the sprite, we need to hide the variable. All right, so now if we go here, it's in Japanese.
ねえ、レディ、あなたは景色が好きですか？
She says no, because
大
she's
丈夫だと
cold.
思います。
Now here we haven't
この
translated their
辺りでセーターをど
names,
こで買えるか知っています
but
か？
I think that's okay because it's their name.
私のおばあちゃんは
We
街
could,
で
like we.
最高のセーターを作っています。フォローしてください。ヘイグランマ、ただいま。私は友達を育てました。
Apparently, "Hey Grandma" is the same in Japanese. Maybe because it was all caps, it decided that it couldn't translate it. I'm not sure. It's kind of interesting in the context of the story. We could work on fixing that if it became problematic in testing. Now, what about her thoughts, though? So here, We said Japanese.
ねえ、レディ、あなたは景色が好きですか？
She
ええ、
says no.
大丈夫だと思います。
I'd like it better if I
こ
wasn't
の辺り
cold.
でセ
Okay,
ーターをどこで買え
so
るか知ってい
let's
ますか？
translate
確
that.
かに私のおばあちゃん
And I
は
think
街で
that's
最
actually
高
it.
の
I
セータ
can, we
ー
can
を
look at where we would translate
フォロ
the
ー
names,
してくだ
but
さい。
because they're names, I don't think that it actually makes much sense to do that. So, think I would like it better if it's not cold. So we have a whole say block that does all of this translation. So just for consistency, let's make a think block, and we can use that. Cold.
ええ、大丈夫だと思います。この辺りでセーターをどこで買えるか知っていますか？
And now we want to do something like that. So we'll translate. What do we want? Eventually, we have to actually do think. So there's our think, and I think all we really need to do is translate. We don't have to set a bunch of variables or anything for this one. We just have to translate the text to the language. And we're not going to say have different, like, think for 2 seconds, think for 4 seconds. If we needed that, we can either add another argument to our think block, but right now we don't need that. So think, I'd like it better if I wasn't cold. We should have some consistency for use of capitals with our blocks. That's a detail we can get to later. Let's see now if she thinks in Japanese.
ねえ、レディ、あなたは景色が好きですか？
ええ、大丈夫だと思います。
Yes! Now she
こ
thinks
の
in
辺り
Japanese.
でセーターをどこで買えるか知ってい
Wonderful.
ます
If only it
か？
were that easy in real
確
life.
かに私のおばあちゃんは
Their names stay in
街で
English,
最高のセーターを
and the reason for that is because we have this in our say block. We have setting the subtitle to this join. So we're joining two bits of text together. One is the name and one is the translated dialogue. So if we wanted the name translated, we would also run that through our translate block. I think it is better to not translate their names because their names are going to be in the language that were created. But if you wanted to, you could do that. Also, names are notoriously difficult to translate. My name doesn't have a good Japanese translation because there's no TH sound in Japanese. So that's, I think that is it for our project today. We've got all of the translation done. It's working. Interestingly enough, it works with both the text and the voice now get translated. And this is one of the advantages of using text-to-speech over me just recording my voice or getting your friends to record their voices, is we would have to do that for every language we want to support. Whereas today, by translating the text, because last time we had already moved over to using text-to-speech instead of recorded voices, now every language we support also is going to be both in text and in voice. So there are limitations to both of these technologies. The translations are not always exactly what you want. The voices are also fairly limited, and of course not all of the translations have matching voices. So there are a lot of them that do. I think I went through and counted which ones match, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 19, 20, because English is actually supported in both too. So if you're translating from a different language, if you're creating this in German, say, and wanted to translate to English, that is supported in both the text-to-speech and the translation. So about 20 languages are supported for both. So you have a pretty wide ability to customize your games. And so we have subtitles, thought bubbles. We could do the speech bubbles, the voices, and the dialogues and buttons, all translated. And that feels pretty good. It's nice to make your game more accessible to more people. So Scratch gives you some really cool tools for doing that. And as you see, it wasn't all that hard. We had to think a little bit about where things go. So we have, for instance, this that used to be a dialogue with a costume. We don't really need the costumes anymore because we don't use them. And so I'm just going to actually make them blank, just so if somebody looks in there, they're like, well, why doesn't this show? And, so it is useful to have it be its own sprite because it contains its own logic, and we don't want to mix that in everywhere else. But it doesn't have any actual view itself. It's only through showing that variable. I hope that has been helpful, and I think I managed to learn a few things out of this, and I hope you did too. Next time, what are we doing next time? I think we're doing graphics with the pen, and we're going to do some really cool effects with that. So until then, have a great time, keep scratching, and I will post a link to this project in the description so you can go in and make it your own, create some cool games, and let me know about it. Thanks. Bye-bye.